Hey everybody, it's Aaron Norris with the Norris Group. It is Friday, June 28th, and we've all heard of NIMBYs, but have you heard of bananas? One of my favorites from this week in Austin. That much more as we cover the biggest headlines in real estate. You won't want to miss a radio show and podcast. We have our week 2 of the San Diego Creative Investors panel that I moderated a few weeks ago on accessory dwelling units with a lot of really great experts in the space of how things are changing so quickly. This week we cover whether HOAs and CC&Rs apply and if ADUs you can build there. You're going to want to know that. We also talk about the California Coastal Commission, where you might run into another layer of drama if you're thinking about ADUs along the coast. We talk about the city of Encinitas and how they've done some really creative things to grease the wheel in making ADUs more timely and less costly. They've done some really cool things. So don't miss the radio show and podcast this week. I am at the National Association of Real Estate Editors annual spring conference here in Austin, Texas. I attended my first one last year, and it's a ton of fun. It's 3 full days of back-to-back presentations on everything from technologies to iBuying to the multi-family space to mixed use. It's super interesting, and I'm loving it. I'm very nerdy, and I'll get to some of those in just a second, but let's get to a few quick headlines. Home values in the U.S. decreased for the second month in a row by 0.1%, putting the average home at $226,800. The Mortgage Bankers Association reported a 1.3% increase in mortgage applications from last week, and mortgage rates decreased this week with 30-year rates at 3.73% and 15-year rates at 3.16%. Harvard's State of the National Housing Report was released this week, and the conclusion is the housing market is competitive, unequal, and just getting by. Hey, sort of just like us. According to a new survey from Zillow, one of the most stressful things for most Americans is selling their home. Over 1/3 of people who sell their home cry during the process, 20% of which actually do so 5 times or more. So, hey, realtors, instead of just having your license, maybe get that family therapist license, all right? There's a huge gap between what buyers want and what's for sale. MarketWatch says that we need 94,000 homes priced between 100,000 and 340,000. If you want sort of more details on the slides that I was able to take pictures of and a lot more on all the different topics that are covered, definitely go to at Aaron Norris on Twitter, and you can follow a lot of the things that we covered, but it's just too long for here, so I'm going to keep it really short and simple. The first one is affordability across the board is an issue, from the multifamily space to residential. No surprise, it's just going to continue to be an issue. Lawrence Yoon with the National Association of Realtors today says we're 5 to 6 million housing units short, and we've all been hearing the number in California that we're 3 million short. So apparently California is a big where the biggest shortage is. I don't know, but even in the multifamily space, the nonprofit who specializes in affordability, the cities just aren't getting serious about affordable housing with all the fees. So the National Association of Home Builders shared the metrics that they've been sharing for years about how much regulatory fees cost as part of the percentage. It's really bad. It's in the mid, on the average, in around the 25% mark, but that's not the top tier. So in California in particular, that's regulatory fees. That has nothing to do with if you are getting sued in a CEQA lawsuit. So as a builder in California, when you're looking at developing a piece of raw land into something that's buildable, and then you're planning to do affordable housing, yeah, good luck with that. And that's why it's not happening. And we see the data from across the board. So it's always really frustrating here consistently for the past 5 years. We need affordable housing. We need affordable housing. But at the core of it is the politicians who don't make it happen. So we're talking about rent control right now. Yet SB 50 doesn't pass, where we were able to build density along transportation corridors. It's just really strange and really frustrating, especially going into the conversation about rent control. So not all mom and pop real estate investors can have really deep pockets to where they can afford some of the regulation and legislation that's coming their way. There's an assumption that we have, unlimited funds to deal with things like AC and roof repairs. Well, real estate investing is messier than that. So I just hope that cooler heads prevail and we can all get serious. That's one of the reasons why I like the accessory dwelling unit conversation. It's really interesting to see the state act, because they're basically get rid of the NIMBYism at the local level by forcing the municipalities not to have a choice. They're just saying, hey, this is what you need to do. We don't care about the NIMBYs, just get it done. So anyway, last year I really enjoyed the conversation at the NARI conference about the experience. So from malls to mixed use to residential housing, the concept of building a community, getting people out of their home and shared spaces, especially in the world of social media where everybody's tapping on glass, we're just not running into each other as much. And so I just am really inspired by the conversation. A lot of these developers are really focusing a lot more on design, really developing a lifestyle. So big companies, especially the tech companies, are looking for spaces where their employees can end up doing a lot more there. So while I was in New York City, I got to go to Hudson Yards. I'm a huge fan of YouTube, and I watch a lot on construction around the world. And Hudson Yards, I was extremely interested to go and see. It's very rare in New York to run into a space that's a lot more not just natural, but free flowing, and it's not, blockish in design. New York is really built on a grid. So when you run into a space where there's meandering sidewalks and you see art and there's shopping and there's living and there's hospitality, all in one space to where you can show up and really enjoy your entire day because everything is there, that's interesting to me. And as a real estate investor, when I'm buying rentals, when I look at trends of where the consumer is going and where millennials are buying and why, and the things that they expect, I'm looking for those amenities that I think are going to play long term if I'm planning to buy real estate to hold for a long period of time. So those are some of the nerdy things that I'm looking at, and it was really fun to listen at all the different real estate sectors and how they're dealing with it. So iBuyers was one of the reasons I really wanted to attend. They had Open Door, OfferPad, and Zillow on the panel talking about their different buy boxes, if you will, and I've been following them really closely in the Riverside County area. One of them in particular has bought over 100 homes since November. Very few have sold thus far, but the buy box that I'm seeing is really hard to follow. So you've got everything from a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom in the low 200s in Hemet, and just a few, maybe 20 minutes away, $1 million property in Murrieta. $1 million. I didn't know they made $1 million homes in Murrieta. So it's really difficult to see the buy box. I already have real estate investors and realtors pushing the iBuyers against each other, so getting all the offers and then taking the best one. And my sense is that iBuyers like Zillow and Keller Williams is going to win because they have multiple exit strategies for the lead. In the case of a Zillow Offers, they may not be able to do the iBuyer process, but they can refer it to a premier agent because the vast majority of their leads are going to end up at the premier agent anyway. However, I did learn today that serious people who contact these iBuyers, they have a 50-50 close rate. Now, they didn't specify what they consider a serious lead, but it's interesting to watch. I did see a panel with home investors on the panel, and I disagreed that they didn't think that this model was going to catch up. I think real estate investors, what we've been offering for years, non-contingent, fast sale as is, it's huge. And I think these iBuyers are going to take the easy leads. They are going to be able to deal quickly with death, disease, divorce in an efficient technology, very unemotional way. Very much way how CarMax did to the used car industry. I think iBuyers are going to find their home. Yes, none of them are recession tested, so most have started since after 2014. So if there is a recession, it'll be interesting to see. And they admitted on the panel, not all of their stuff is making money, but they're using a lot of machine learning and artificial intelligence to keep refining their model. However, it is going to be very interesting to watch as they start competing in some markets heavily. And I've talked to a few, and it's interesting to sort of get the sense of competition from them. And they're going to have to outbid each other, and they have a lot of money. Some of them have raised over $1 billion, and not only that, some of them are also using leverage. So really interesting panel stuff. If you want to follow more, go on Twitter. One quick follow-up to the iBuyers conversation. The Home Investors was on a different panel, so I'm sort of merging two panels together. But Home Investors said that they, on average, spend $7 million a month on marketing. David Hicks, who was representing Home Investors, he's the CEO, said that 50% of what Home Investors franchisees end up purchasing gets flipped to other real estate investors that are either going to flip it or hold it. I'm really hoping that the iBuyers end up teaming up with a brand like Home Investors, because I think there's a lot of opportunity, because the buy box for the iBuyers currently does not include a lot of heavy fixers. The most I've seen them really do is basic carpet paint. OfferPads is doing a little bit more of a rehab, which is interesting. But when you're a Wall Street iBuyer, I think the conversation is going to be a lot more around speed and scale, where the real estate investor community is a lot better at the other. right as of last year, they all iBuyers together ended up purchasing 16 to 17,000. I expect this year to be way different and to blow it up. So I got to spend a little bit of time with CoreLogic while I was here talking about bifurcating the data. Be very aware of the data of Adam data or CoreLogic if they do not take out the iBuyers from that data, because it'll show up in the flip. Because typically their metric looks at the same property being sold within a year's time. The problem is that some iBuyers are losing money. Their margin is razor thin, and a lot of them aren't really, their goal isn't to really rehab the property, so it's not a typical flip. On top of that, you have a lot of real estate investors that are buying inside entities like trusts. So if they're only looking at larger entities, they might miss the whole mom and pop Main Street real estate investor altogether. So I'm challenging, anybody who's collecting this data to look at that really carefully and to see if we can separate Main Street data from Wall Street, because I think it'll be a lot more interesting for them as well, because they'd be able to track the metrics against just how tight the margin is of these iBuyers and if they're making money at all. So I was very excited this morning, and the reason I wanted to send as much video today, Friday, is because we had the mid-year economic forecast from several different companies: Realtor.com, the National Association of Realtors, CoreLogic, and Zillow. So overall, it was really positive. Actually, they think that we're going to end the year better than expected. CoreLogic had a lot of changes to make, even in the mortgage market, where they were expecting a bloodbath in refi. But now that it looks like interest rates are actually going to go down the remainder of the year, well, they think that sales could actually increase and have a much better second half of the year compared to 2018. So that could be really good, especially for some of us California real estate investors that are looking to possibly reposition some of our assets out of the state of California. So overall, nothing too much to share besides it was overwhelmingly positive. Gen Z and Gen X, millennials, are finally getting off the fence when it comes to buying. Gen Z, oddly enough, are starting way earlier than millennials, and it's really something that they want to do. They're starting to save now, even though they're the youngest demographic just entering the market, but there's a perception that they have to have 10% down, so there needs to be some communications with the younger generation that you just need 3% down. So a lot of work to do there, but overall, extraordinarily positive, which is a little bit of a surprise, which is good. Okay, my new acronym of choice is BANANA. I've heard of NIMBYism, so that's not in my backyard, and of course NIMBYs, that's yes in my backyard, but I had not heard of bananas, and no, it's not new, but it's the first time I heard it. And it stands for Build Absolutely Nothing Anywhere Near Anyone. If you've ever been in development or builder and don't realize this, just because it's coded for it and it's zoned doesn't mean a project that you want to build will necessarily go through. I've seen it happen in Riverside. It's terrible. So a local community group can actually squash your deal. You can end up in lawsuits. It's terrible. So if you didn't know what banana is, you can use it, and it's so appropriate for this time in the California market, especially around our conversation with affordability. Last week we featured our very first calculator question, and this week is the answer. Here is Kyle Humfeld with In a Day Development walking you through the answer that we released last week, and hopefully you got it right. And when we start releasing these in the future, if you post a comment on social media, we'll be selecting one person who left a comment at random to ship one of our favorite books in our library.
Okay, so this one is pretty straightforward. The first thing we need to know is how much time is involved. So 2016 minus 1988, because the scenario starts in 1988 and it goes to 2016, is, let's see here, 2016 and then 1988, and that's going to be 28 years. And we want to know how many months that is. We're going to multiply that by 12. That's 336 months, right? 336 months. So we're going to put that into N. All right, we want to find out the rate of return per year on average, so we're not going to put anything into the I register. So the investor started out with $700,000 and invested that, and this is basically an inflation or rising value over time with no contributions and no withdrawals. So we put 0 into PMT, and then at the end of the 28 years the investor had $10 million. So put 10 million in there into FV. So 336 months, put in 700,000 at the beginning, nothing in between times, took out $10 million at the end, or was worth $10 million at the end, and we determine that the average annualized rate of return is 9.54%. That's it. Pretty simple, right?
If you're on YouTube, please leave a comment below and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a beat. If you're on Facebook, please don't forget to not only like the Norris Group page, but don't forget to add us to your See First list and with notifications on. Leave your comments below the video. And if we miss something, share the story on our comment sections on either YouTube or Facebook, and we'll make sure to include it on our blog at thenorrisgroup.com/blog.
We hope to see you out and about July 8th, Innovative Real Estate Marketing with me at LA South RIA, and then I'll be going up to Sacramento on July 10th doing that very same chat. July 13th, Think Realty Irvine Conference and Expo. Both Bruce and I will be participating in different panels and presentations, so they did a great job next year, and I expect them to do the same. August 21st, 10 decisions to make before the next downturn with Invest Club for Women, and that's Bruce teaching that. And then August 23rd, Innovative Real Estate Marketing with We Rep out here in the Inland Empire. You can find out all those events at our website under the Training tab. If you want to find out more information about hard money loans, click the Hard Money tab. We lend in both California and Florida. Our new program for accessory dwelling units is only in California. It's a second position loan. If you haven't seen it, check all of our loan programs out under that hard money loan tab. We do fix and flip, buy and hold, new construction, and now ADUs. For more information on passive investing with notes, trust deeds, and mortgages, hit that Invest tab and you'll learn more about that. With that, have a fantastic weekend. We'll see you next week when I am back in California and hopefully look a little less tired.